All right. good morning, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. Coach Kevin Sparks here, and we are going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like to go ahead and do is share my screen with you and point out some things that'll be important going forward. First thing I'd like to share with you is that we have a meetup group that coincides a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup group. It has the same name, Live Law of Attraction, Money, Wealth, and Success Training. And we'd invite you to come join us. The way to find us is just log into your Facebook account, go to your search function, and start typing in Live Law of Attraction, Money, Wealth, and Success Training. You can find us that way. The other way you can find us is you can go directly to facebook.com/groups, that's plural, /money manifesting coach. Again, that is facebook.com/groups, that's plural, /money manifesting coach. Now, why would you want to join the group in the first place? Well, we hit the record button a moment ago before we got started. And as you can see and hear, what we do is we take the recordings and we make them available to you in the Facebook group. So that would be reason number one. Let's say today is your first day attending and you like something that we went over and you want to review it. Typically 24 to 48 hours from the time of the meeting, you will be able to find the recording in the Facebook group. So that'd be the first reason you'd want to join us. The other reason is sometimes we go over material that takes just a day. But sometimes we go over material that takes multiple days to go through. And when we do that, this is where you can go back once again and you can find those recordings. So let's say, for instance, you're with us today, it's Monday, you're here with us maybe Tuesday, you can't make it on Wednesday, you make it on Thursday, you can't make it on Friday. Well, you can always go back and review the 2 days that you weren't able to make it and get caught up with us if you'd like to. Okay, next thing I want to go ahead and point out is what we are in the process of going through. We're in the process of going through a particular book written by a good friend of mine. It's called Hidden Treasures is the name of the book. And you can buy it on Amazon as a paperback. You can get it on Kindle. You can also get it on Audible. And I even believe you could also buy a CD set, okay? However, all those ways would cost you money to do so. And Leslie let me know that she put up a site where she's been giving it away for free for a while. Thank you, Leslie, for doing that. And so this is the site where you can find it for free. It's hiddentreasuresbook.com. If you scroll down a little bit, there's Leslie. Scroll down a little ways and see where it says click here for your free download. That's where I recommend you go get one. And then you could have the exact same one that we're using currently in the study we're doing, make it easy to follow along. Now, who is Leslie? Why is her book important? Well, Leslie and I both, we've become good friends. Leslie and I have both been trained by a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. Don't know if you know who Bob Proctor is or not. He's the author of a book called You Were Born Rich. And also, if you've seen the movie The Secret or read the book The Secret, he's highly highlighted there. Now, Bob has been in the personal development industry for a long time. He is going to be 87 years old in July. Congratulations, Bob. Because Bob has been, he was first learned about the law of attraction and how the mind works just about 60 years ago. And for the last 51 years, he's actually been training people how to understand how their mind works and how the law of attraction works. And he's done that successfully for many years. Well, both Leslie and I have been trained to be coaches and facilitators for his programs. And since then, we become independent and do some of our own things. So I just wanted to point out who Leslie is, know what her background is and mine. We share that commonality. But Leslie, when she wrote this book, there were other books that explain, this book explains how the laws of the universe function, specifically in relationship to manifesting what you want in your life. Particularly, you can manifest pretty much whatever you want. However, our focus is money and wealth. And a lot of you are aware of the law of attraction. What you may not be aware of is the law of attraction is actually a secondary law to the law of vibration. and that there are actually 7 laws that you need to understand and follow if you're going to attract into your life what you truly want. And if you don't understand the laws and you're breaking them, you won't get what you want. Let me give you a quick example what I mean by law and how by not understanding it, you truly won't end up with the situation you want. In fact, you could end up hurting yourself. Let's pretend there's a little child that does not walk yet, but the child can crawl pretty well and climb onto things. Well, this child goes climbing into the kitchen, or goes crawling into the kitchen and finds kind of a bench or stool or whatever and starts climbing up on top. And then the child actually is successfully able to go over to the countertop of the kitchen. Let's pretend it's one of those big islands, with a big counter. And the child gets up there and the child starts crawling. When the child comes to the end of the counter, if the child doesn't stop crawling, what's going to happen to that child? Well, you and I all know what's going to happen to that child. That child is going to crawl off the other end of it. And there is a law that's going to take place in that child's life that even though the child was the child, what is the floor made out of? Probably not carpet, at least not in a kitchen. So the child is going to hit tile, the child is going to hit wood, the child's going to hit a surface that is probably going to be kind of hard. And we don't know what part of the child is going to hit first. Is it going to be its elbow, its back, its head, its legs? We don't know. Here's what we can likely conclude. The child is going to be hurt when it's all done, okay? If not for a few moments, maybe for quite a bit of time. Might even need to go get a bone fixed or something like that, a bone set, I should say. The point is, laws that govern manifesting money and wealth in your life, as well as the other things that you would like, they operate the same way. Just because we are infants in the sense of we may be unaware of what's going on, doesn't change the fact that there are automatic consequences to the disobedience of these particular laws. When we do things that we shouldn't do, whether we know so or not, we end up with consequences for ourselves that aren't to our liking. Okay. So Hidden Treasures is a book about the laws, the 7 laws that govern manifesting the money and wealth that you truly want. There's other places where you can find it, but I like how Leslie's gone about explaining it. She's done a phenomenal job. So I highly recommend you get this book, particularly since you can get a copy of it for yourself for free. And here's essentially hold on a second here. Let me move this. Mouse to work the way I want to. I want to come to another spot here. Here we go. And go ahead and get your copy. We are on page 93 of 115. So as you can see, we've been going through this for a little while. We're probably going to finish up today what it is that we have meant to finish up. There's more pages than that, but it's exercises at the back to make sure that you've learned what it is you're supposed to learn. So again, highly recommend you download it so you get a copy of the exercises that will help make sure and cement that you learn these laws. In addition to understanding the laws and obeying them, there's another player in the game of life that either will help us or hurt us depending on what we do with it and how we understand it. And it's our subconscious mind. If we have subconscious mind, if our subconscious mind is programmed in such a way that it is in opposition to us receiving the things we want, it will sabotage us every time we try to get what we want. However, on the flip side, if our subconscious mind is programmed in such a way that we decide that we want to manifest something and the subconscious mind is not in opposition, it's actually in harmony, it will be our very best friend in helping us get what we want to get. For the most part, our subconscious mind is this for us. It's our friend in a few situations and it's our enemy in many, okay, when it comes to getting what we want in life. I say that because if there are things that you have wanted, or there are plateaus you've reached and haven't been able to succeed at, or let's say you've had some success and it hasn't been lasting, maybe it went on for a few weeks or a few months or a year, maybe you've had that banner year and have never been able to reproduce it again. Well, that is your subconscious mind in play fighting against you. Now, the cool thing about that is that can be changed. That's not what we're going to talk about today, but we will be talking about that. Okay. So we're going to hop in where we left off the other day, probably finish up with this book, what we're going to be doing with the book. And then we're going to take about 10, 15 minutes at the end for you guys to share what you want to share and answer whatever questions you would like to have answered. That's how we typically operate. So what I'm going to do now is take a sip of water and jump in where we left off. I'll add commentary where I feel it's helpful and appropriate. And then again, if you have any questions, write them down. We will get to those. If there's anything that you would really like to share, again, either write that down or remember what that is, and we will give you the opportunity to do that too. For now, I'm just going to get a sip of water and then we're going to get started with this. All right. Falling to success. One day, I drove across town. I was pondering my challenges when suddenly an image came into my mind. Immediately, I pulled over to capture the image and the message that accompanied it. I invite you to read the following story and see if you can identify any of the laws in action as you imagine yourself achieving your highest potential. A little acorn wants to become all that its blueprint promises that it can be. It is meant to be a grand and mighty oak, but for now, it is only a simple nut dangling by a stem. It hangs on the parent tree and reaches high, wanting to see the ground views and sweep the vast sky with broad branches, or the grand views, wanting to see the grand views and sweep the vast sky with broad branches. It wants to experience the fluttering of leaves and the swaying of limbs, but alas, it can barely feel the breeze slowed by the shelter of its protecting parent. Finally, the parent hears its cry and says, "Yes, little seed, I have great plans for you. You will scrape the sky and sway in the wind, and the views will be glorious. You'll provide a home for many creatures, giving shelter and food. Your friends will be many, your influence will be vast, and you'll be great and happy." The little acorn's heart swells with excitement as it stretches its rigid shell upward to receive its promised reward. But instead of enjoying the exhilaration of greatness, it is shaken from the tree and takes a long, hard fall, landing with nothing more than a slight thud. In fact, there is no apparent compassion or understanding, since its terrible fall seems to go unnoticed. Its very world seems to have crashed down, and yet time marches on for everything else around it. The tiny acorn soon finds itself trampled upon, with dirt kicked rudely upon it. Eventually, it's completely buried in the dark and alone. "Have you forgotten me?" he cries. But there is no answer, no explanation, no reprieve. Instead of rescue, the rain begins to pour, and at once the buried seed believes it just may drown as well. It tries to throw its weight one way and then the other to force its way out of the ground, or to find its way back to the tree, but nothing changes. It's as though it is trapped and cannot escape its doom. Weary of the fight, it surrenders to its fate. Holding still with a sigh, the elements around it take notice of its calmed demeanor and begin to respond to its mere presence there. In fact, without any more futile struggle, it begins to notice there's a subtle change taking place within itself. It discovers that as it remains calm, it actually already has all it needs right there in its immediate environment. It hasn't perished from being cut off from its parents as it feared it might. Though the fall was frightening and terrible, there it remains as alive as well as before. No, it has not perished. Rather, it has sprouted new parts of itself from within that it didn't even know it could sprout. And the little seed begins to experience the joy that always accompanies growth and soul expansion. Though it hasn't achieved its ultimate goal, it feels good enough just to grow. After that temporary period of loneliness, soon the seedling has broken through the crust of earth and can finally see the goal again, though it has never appeared to be so far away as it is now. However, in truth, it has never been closer. So be patient, little seed. You were created for greatness that is in store for you. Allow yourself time to develop roots and keep reaching for the sun. Trust God, and success is inevitable. All you transmutation. Any others? So now ask yourself, what do you want? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would your goals be? The sky is the limit. And as you hold right to the laws as a kite to its string, you will soar. Dream big, because if you can think it, you can do it. Now, are you ready for the bonus law? It's finally time to get into the vacuum law of prosperity. This one is amazing because the results that come from abiding by this law can be achieved relatively quickly. So this is the bonus eighth law, the vacuum law of prosperity. This law was the one I consciously tried to apply first because it was easy and just seemed to make a lot of sense. Seeing it work in a dramatic way, I then found courage to test the rest of the laws, which you've been studying in chapters 1 through 7. I list this principle last because it will be freshest in your memory when you finish the book, and it will be an excellent starting point for you to make some wonderful positive changes in your life. Let me tell you about the circumstances surrounding the time when I first learned about and tested this law. I met Bob Proctor for the first time during break at a seminar. After visiting for a minute, he told me that I had a pretty good balance going on between my right and left brain, creative in the analytical parts, but that I was primarily creative. I told him how I wasn't sure I believed him because I had done my undergraduate studies in mathematics. I felt very analytical and told him that I'm always analyzing, always hashing things out of my mind, and always thinking. I wasn't sure, but his response sounded like an insult. He said, "You're not thinking. Your mind is busy, but you're not thinking." All righty then. What do you say when a stranger tells you that? Well, I chewed on that one for a while, and almost a year later, I finally figured out what he meant. By his definition, thinking meant creating a new thought, not rehashing or reorganizing old ones. To think is to consciously create a new idea limited only by one's imagination. It's thinking outside of the pie, not focusing on the limited visible resources. For example, if I'm looking at my circumstances and deducing whether or not my goal is reasonable based on empirical evidence, then my mind is busy analyzing, but I'm not thinking. To dwell on circumstances as they are often leads to doubt and worry. Instead, to think is to create a vision in my mind of how I want things to be, and then consciously choose to believe in the reality of my vision, no matter the evidence, no matter what the circumstances are. It is to live in the dream in my mind while acting upon those thoughts and patiently waiting for circumstances to eventually reflect them. In my case, the checkbook said we were out of money, but I dreamed of having plenty. I literally spent time with my eyes closed, pretending that I already enjoyed the prosperity. I was thinking. If we managed to feel the emotions that would accompany the new lifestyle, Then we are putting ourselves in a vibration that is in harmony with the things and circumstances we desire. When we think this way, our minds open up to the hidden solutions that can make it happen. When we only process evidence gathered by our five senses, our minds close up to many of the potential solutions. Our situation looks hopeless because of the thoughts we choose. But in reality, our situation is never hopeless. We simply have to allow ourselves to think and trust that the way will present itself. When it does, you've just moved into the world of geniuses. A genius idea is an out of the box thought inspired by God. This level of brilliance is something we can prepare ourselves to experience time and again, if not continually, throughout our lives. We just need to trust the process. So, what is the vacuum law? It goes like this: nature abhors a vacuum. Let me explain. Bob tells a story about his aunt. He paid her a visit, and she emphatically apologized for her hideous curtains. She expressed how much she hated those old curtains, but said she unfortunately couldn't afford to replace them. Bob said, "You love those curtains." "No, I hate them. I just can't afford to replace them." "No, you love them." Subconsciously, you are in complete harmony with them, or they'd already be gone. Bob was blunt. "But I can't afford new ones," she explained. "Dear Aunt, don't you see? You don't need new curtains. You have no place to hang any. If you want new curtains, take these down, clean them up, and give them away. Don't yard sale them. Donate them to charity." After some time, he convinced her that since nature abhors a vacuum, it would not allow her to go long without the curtains she needs. But she would never get them so long as there were others already in their place. Hesitantly, Bob's aunt did what he said. The next time he came to visit, there hung the new curtains. Somehow a way had presented itself, and she was amazed and inspired by the principle that now her living room was void of furniture. When I heard that story, I thought, here's a principle I can put to the test. We had been apologizing for and complaining about our carpet for 3 years. Aside from looking bad, we remember all too well what had been on them when we had bought the home as a repo. But since we had been going in the hole deeper by several $100s every month, we couldn't justify replacing it. We came home from the seminar, immediately gave our kids some ketchup, honey, and markers, and told them to go to town. The carpet was not even worth donating to a doghouse. Then we pulled up the carpet, threw it out, and lived on concrete floors, dodging exposed tack strips for 3 weeks. I did my homework, looking for the best deal on the kind of carpet we wanted, expecting that the way would present itself if I just kept moving my feet. Finally, after 3 weeks, the new carpet came. Somehow we found a way without going into debt. I think it may have been an impound account overage on our home mortgage or another unexpected windfall, which helped us fill the vacuum. My friend did this for a couch. She gave away the older one and was so excited to tell me about it when she got the new couch only a short time later. She afforded it with money which came and had been overlooked because it wasn't part of their regular income. There's a lesson in that. When we base our faith on evidence alone, we may even forget some of the more obvious avenues through which the money can come. If we think the goal is impossible based on only the most obvious evidence, then we can easily slip into discouragement and doubt, thus limiting our ability to receive all that is truly available to us. When we doubt and fear, I believe we can miss out on potential divine intervention that might have otherwise spared us from unexpected setbacks. Let me repeat that. When we doubt and fear, spared an unfortunate and costly event, like a blown head gasket. There are so many things we may never know, things that he does for us that we take for granted. So take control of your life by setting some goals and controlling your thoughts. Once you decide where you want to go, he is right there and ready to help part the waters, so to speak, for you. However, with no goals and no direction, what intervention does a person need anyway? That's like a drawbridge being lowered for a person when he or she has no intention of crossing to the other side. Set some goals. Is applying the vacuum law an act of faith? Oh, yes, it is. After all, what if the way doesn't present itself for the replacement carpet or new couch? This is when you practice believing anyway. Trust the laws and do your part. Your part is to believe and look for the way. Will your faith be strengthened when you practice having some? Most definitely. Like a muscle, your faith is strengthened by exercising it. Our carpet experience gave us the courage to have faith in bigger dreams, which one by one continue to come true. I'm never surprised when they do, but always amazed. We live in daily gratitude for the God-given blessings of abundance, is that money can buy and the things that money can't buy. Above all, these principles have brought peace, and how can anyone put a price on peace? Live by the laws and you will live in peace. I can't tell you where the money will come from for you. However, I can tell you a few of the sources where it came from for my husband and me during the lean years. A miniature mechanical Santa was left on our doorstep anonymously with a $100 bill in his hand. Our bank made an error, which, when corrected, resulted in a refund to our account. We received a larger than expected tax refund. We got I found a $20 bill in my pocket that I never remember having at a time when a single dollar was tough to come by. We experienced a sudden increase in the number of customers, clients to our business. We found unbelievably good deals on major purchases like real estate, cars, computer equipment, etc. Some gift money arrived in the mail from a grandmother who had never given me money before and who was herself as poor as a church mouse. And my favorite example, $400 total came from the sale of 4 puppies out of my mutt who happened to mate with the loose, purebred Rhodesian Ridgeback. The puppies took on the distinguishing characteristics of the show quality father. Now, I never predicted that we could be safe financially that month by such a random blessing. Do you see how important it is to just trust in whatever the Lord will do without knowing precisely how your deliverance will happen? In conclusion, remember that man's ways are not God's ways. As a child of the Most High God, and as you set your goals, remember that he is on your side and already wishes to help you. His blessings are available to you both now and in the hereafter. So live by law and reap the rewards. Okay, so we're going to stop there for this particular book. And I highly recommend, though, that you go download it, read the whole thing if you haven't, and take the challenge that's here and do the work that's this part. This is essentially the workbook section of this book, and you really should take the time to fill it in. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come out of screen share for now and bring us back together with each other. Looks like a few people joined us since we got started. Let's see if there's anybody brand new here that I don't recognize at all. Everybody looks familiar that I can tell by the names I see. So since you know that, I don't have to repeat a whole lot. This is your opportunity to share what you would like to share and or ask whatever questions you would like to ask. So go ahead and come off mute, and this is your time.
Hi, Kevin.
Oh,
Hi.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I really liked the vacuum section. I've heard of the theory before, but I really liked the example of it, and it inspires me now. If, like, say, for example, if I want new clothes or something like that, to get rid of my old clothes that, you know, have just been sitting there that I'm basically hoarding and I just haven't worn in so long, or I never even see myself wearing in the future. So that was a little aha moment for me.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely do it. It's not if the closet's all filled up and there's no space for it, you're essentially sending that message that you don't need anything. Or I should say, not just need, it's not about need, it's about you don't want anything because it's too full to have room for it. So yes, that's a great idea to do that, especially if you like some new things.
Okay. Hi, Kevin. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, you too.
So this chapter, this part was fitting, which I was kind of hoping something would be today after this weekend. So my husband, had that opportunity given to him, offered to him for that motorcycle shop. Well, it turned out, so the guy wanted to hire him, but my husband was going to turn it down at first because he ended up offering such low pay as if we were starting out in life, just, like in our 20s with really low pay. And, but after my husband and I were talking, it's like, well, kind of that saying, the bird in the hand or whatever. And plus it's not just about that, it's about the opportunity that my husband gets to work on these different bikes and learn even more things or learn how to do things differently. Because my husband's very handy, so he already knows how to work on bikes, but this gentleman does it differently. And the owner of the shop is actually really well known in the motorcycle industry. So it'd be a good opportunity. So I said, why not? Plus I'm still looking for a job, even though I'd rather be an entrepreneur, but you already know, we need money coming in right now, consistent money. So he decided to accept the position. So that's exciting. But I have to tell you, I kind of fell into this weekend. I was doubting, I was fearing where's the money coming from. I started looking at real estate again because we want to buy investment property. But as you know, it's just so crazy out there. Oh my goodness. I was feeling sad.
By the way, Michelle, I'll stop you for a second. No, I don't know. Meaning I know how you're feeling, but I don't know what you mean by real estate, because every time I want to find a piece of real estate to do something with, I don't look at what's going on out there until I make the decision. And then I trust God, and I always end up with what I'm looking for or something better. So you got to quit looking. You got to actually decide first, then trust God, feel good, and then let God help you find it.
Okay. Well, we made the decision. We want to buy an investment property.
Awesome.
But with the prices out there, it's like, oh my gosh.
I'm going to stop you. You can't say we made the decision, but hey, oh my gosh, that's not a decision. You say you want it. There's a difference between wanting something and deciding you're going to have it. Way different than wanting. We've all wanted lots of things that we've never gotten, or that we wait a long time for because we put stipulation on it. The decision is, this is what I am going to have it. Not a specific piece of it necessarily right now. Doesn't have to be that, but this is what I want. And actually what you want is you think you want real estate. Maybe real estate will be the way to do it, but it's not real estate you want. It's money and lifestyle. You want a lifestyle and you want to be able to afford it. And real estate is just in your mind the way to do it. But God, that's the way I used to be. And I was very heavy in the real estate world, and it's awesome and a lot of money to be made there. And a lot of people that think it's the only way God can bless them because they found this thing called real estate. So that's where all my money and good should come from. And they then shut their mind out to anything that's not part of real estate. And so what they do is, if God wants to deliver money from a different direction and it would come really fast, if they're so focused on receiving it a certain way, that way that God wants to send it to you through becomes closed to you. So you need to leave what I refer to as your channels open. God and the universe are the source. You hear the word multiple sources of income.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. But God and the universe are the source. So I refer to it more as multiple channels. And what I mean by that is, I recognize right now, me as a coach, law of attraction, it makes sense to me that most money I'll receive in my mind, if I go logically, is going to come this way through this. But if there's a certain amount of money I need or want, or more likely it's a thing that I need or want, and it's money that I feel it's going to cost a certain amount, logic to me would say, well, it's probably going to come through coaching. However, and it more often than not, it does. However, there are times where money and things show up for me outside of my channel of coaching because I'm open to it coming. If somebody says, hey, can you do this for me? Or, hey, here's an opportunity. If it's something I can do and it's not going, Bob talks about this, it doesn't distract you from your main source and you're able to do it, then go ahead and do that. So I keep my main source is being a coach. But if things come up that I can do in the meantime or at the same time, or they're vertical in nature to where it actually complements what I'm already doing, that's awesome. God and the universe know that. So again, I know everybody wants to argue their situation, which just keeps you stuck in your situation because everybody wants to feel understood that this is what's going on. But anybody that is talking about real estate in a way that there isn't any and they don't have money as a result, that's different. If you go find somebody like a Manny Koshman on YouTube or some other people, the dude's adding millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, and he's in the same situation everybody else is. So why does he find the deals? Because he doesn't think of it this way. He expects to be able to get what it is that he wants. And he's not stuck on it only coming from one thing. So again, you want to decide what you want for your life. You want to decide your lifestyle and what is a part of that lifestyle, and to stay focused there. Quit going back to your five senses immediately. Get yourself feeling good first, then go to your five senses. Or don't go to your five senses, but yeah, you can look at MLS but if you're starting to feel crappy when you're looking at something, then it's detrimental to you for that point in time. So don't look at it.
That's what was happening yesterday, because when I was looking, I stopped looking actually because we weren't finding the properties that we wanted to spend our money on. And so I stopped for a while and then I started looking again. It brought me to almost to tears because I was like, oh my gosh, these properties are like falling apart and crumbling for 100 and something thousand. And I was like, okay, that's it. And then like Thomas was saying, he said, maybe we're just not meant to buy real estate at this moment. We've been in real estate for a long time. We were, like I told you that before, in Minnesota before we moved to Arizona. I mean, we were landlords for 20 years. We've owned multiple properties. We've had a commercial property. So it's not like we're totally brand new to it. And yes, you're right. That's it's a good way to make money, but it's also our experience. So that's why I keep thinking of real estate, because I know we've done it before. So I know that's a good source. And plus I love real estate. I would like to learn more about it and get into it, but it does seem like every time I go to look here in Arizona, it's like it's blocked or something. There's just something that's not quite fitting. So maybe it's just that, maybe I'm not supposed to be looking at it right now, but I almost wanted to reach out to you, but I thought, no, I can't keep bugging you. I was like, I need like a prayer or something to help me quit the doubt, because doubt would seep in. That I'm like, okay, get rid of it. It'll be okay. It'll work out. And then all of a sudden fear would seep in. Oh, money's not coming in as much as I want. And I was like, oh, got to get rid of that. Get rid of that. And then when I started looking at real estate, then I was getting really mad because I was like, oh my gosh, these properties are horrible. I'm like, okay, I got to stop. And then I just stopped looking at that.
You definitely do need to stop. And the seminar that I gave you so far, it sounds to me like it's not taking hold very well. And the fact that you're totally ignoring what Bob's telling you.
Well, no, and actually I was just listening to one this morning and he was talking about how, you just mentioned it a few minutes ago about, which I've heard him say it before, about the multiple income. And then also what you just mentioned, gosh, I can't remember what it was, but he was talking about, so I'm listening to it and I'm letting it soak in. In fact, I'm going to sleep with it too, playing, and then I replay it again the next day. Cool. And so I'm trying to let it sink in. It's just, I was having weak moments. I was for a couple of times yesterday.
Yeah, and you're just getting started. You're going to have some of those. Let me ask you this, just while we got everybody here.
Okay.
If you guys didn't receive, your household didn't receive any income for the next 30 days, would you be on the street?
No.
Okay, then chill out.
Okay.
Okay, seriously, chill out, because there's a lot of good that can manifest in a very short period of time. And think about today's lesson a bit and think of what types of things what ideas maybe let, if you're hoarding anything, if you're hoarding an idea, maybe like, oh, it's got to happen this way. If you go back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I know Robert Kiyosaki is another one of your favorite people.
Yes. Yeah.
What your husband is doing by taking that job, as long as it's with the right attitude, is I would take the job with two intentions: the intention of learning the business, not just being a great employee, and then the impression of increase, which in the science of getting rich, go back and look at the impression of increase in the advancing man. If he has that attitude plus learning, he's your husband. It sounds like, based on what you're telling me, he's going to pick up on all this stuff within less than 6 months.
You're right. Yes.
He's going to pick it up within 60 to 90 days, and he's going to actually know how to run the business. It just sounds to me like that's his capability level already. He just needs to see it in action and get behind the scenes, so that he can then believe that he can do it himself and know how to do it.
Yeah, you are good, because that is so true. He can see something once and he'll remember it forever, and he can pick up on it like that and just do it.
Yeah. And so he's not even going to get paid the little bit for more than maybe 30 to 60 days. After that, it's going to be a discussion of, do you want me or not? I've already shown you I'm the best that you've ever had before as an employee. I'm the most knowledgeable person and the quickest to pick things up. And, if you want to keep me around, it's gonna cost you a bit more, or we need to come into some kind of profit sharing on what's going on. So I'm okay with having a lower salary as long as I get a piece of the profit. I mean, right now you can't negotiate. You can only tell, give your experience. But within 30 to 60 days, as long as he shows up every day with that good attitude about it, and with, again, the impression of increase, the advancing man, and the intention to learn how that business functions, sounds to me like he'll either be upgraded where he's at, or he will have more of what he needs to move forward with his own gig.
It's so true. Yeah, you're right. And I think I was thinking that too. That's one of the things we were talking about, that it's not going to be this rate forever. And plus, look at the opportunity that you get to learn. And and I think in a short amount of time, he might either increase or maybe even become, like you said, like a profit sharing type thing, or maybe even partner or something. Something's going to arrive from this experience.
Yeah. And Robert Kiyosaki talked about what he did is he purposely took on jobs not for the amount they paid him. Matter of fact, Rich Dad told him he should be willing to work for no pay, or practically no pay, if it's learn the businesses that you're trying to learn. So, granted, that's tougher to do when you got a life to pay for. But again, that's why I asked you, like, are you going to be on the street in 30 days if no money came in? The answer is no, right? I mean, it's not comfortable to just spend it.
Right.
But you're not, there are people out there that are in much worse shape, okay, that are probably slightly more chilled out right now than you are, and you're just going
probably. That's
emotional
enough.
turmoil.
Yeah. And I've been there myself too. I've been in a way worse situation for many, many years. So that's probably, my old habit of it rearing its ugly head, maybe. The old habit of worrying.
No more ugly heads to rear, okay? Look forward to the pretty face you want to see.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kevin.
Who is this?
Hey, Mackenzie.
Okay, cool.
All right, so I just wanted to share a bit of what I learned after listening to Michelle. When you're being introduced to the laws of attraction, it's sort of like a bit of a tennis match, because you're pretty much convinced by appearance. It's easy to be convinced by appearance, but you have to create the image in your head. Like you said, okay, I'm going to have, I don't know, $27,000. And then your mind is saying, oh, you don't have that. You're such a liar. So it does take a while to like settle in. You're completely changing your paradigm. But I wanted to ask Kevin, based on the way Michelle was saying that she's looking and she hasn't found anything, what would be your suggested way that she should phrase that? That's something I personally want to know as well.
Okay. Well, first of all, what I know about Michelle is she just signed up last week or for me to be coaching her in a group coaching. And I've given her some homework to do, and which should be helpful. And I know it has. She and I have texted probably 3 times in the last week about different things, and they're actually working out pretty well. And so there's evidence right now. So there's evidence right now that things are actually moving forward. And so we definitely, you can relax a little bit, but to go to what you're talking about, the number one thing that everybody here is going to have to do while you're going through the process of reprogramming your subconscious mind, okay, is you're going to have to live your life like a little kid. You're going in because what do I mean by that? A little kid ignores their senses when they're doing make-believe. They're not using their eyes, ears, smell, taste, touch, all that stuff. They're in another world in their mind. And while they're there, they go in and out of that world as children. They go out to their friend's house to go play. And then they go into this fantasy world, which is really kind of cool too, because somehow they're able to stick each other in the world too. But they're playing this game, but in their mind, they're doing something different than what's really going on. And they're ignoring completely what's going on around them. The only reason it doesn't manifest physically for them is because they haven't learned that it could. They don't really know that their make-believe with intention and decision behind it could turn into reality at first. But after a while, they get that figured out. Here's what I'm going to do right now. This might help everybody out, but here's what's going to happen if I do it. So I'm going to let you know that it's going to take me a few minutes to do it. But if you want me to, I think it'll be very helpful. So I guess what I'm getting at is if you have to go, I understand it. Okay. I understand if you have to go right now or have to go in a few minutes. You will need to and want to go back and listen to the recording. All right. But I'm going to hop into something. It might take me a moment to find it.
No worries. Can I just add to what you're saying as well, what we just read as well? One of the important part about what we just read is what she said about it's like a muscle, like you have to build the habit. You have to keep doing it. It's not going to happen like in the first 3 days, 4 days. You have to continuously do that. Like you create the image like a young child, as Kevin just said, but you have to keep doing it before it like becomes, I don't know, a paradigm in your system. Yeah. So I thought that was really important.
After this, I'm going to memorize which chapter I'm looking for because I seem to return to it frequently here we go. Okay, so I'm in a book called Power of Awareness. You guys aren't going to be able to see it, but I've got it here on my phone. Power of Awareness, chapter 23. It's by Neville Goddard. Finding a free copy would be pretty easy. Getting mine's on Kindle, and it probably costs nearly nothing. I'm not going to the first one. I'm going to go to...
What chapter was it?
Now I've already forwarded, I think 22 or 23.
Okay, thank you.
It's under case studies. So I want to say it's the 3rd or 4th one, but I'm going to find out here in a moment. This takes... Okay. It's after okay, let's see, 2 business, so maybe there were 3. Okay. It's the 3rd case study. I think it's chapter 22 or 23. It's a book called The Power of Awareness. And I'm going to go again talking about the child because this is a child story that we're going to hear. Now, remember what I said, children are perfect at doing this. What this child didn't know, this child learned very quickly. Child was already good at imagining stuff. but the child didn't know that they could actually take their imagination and use it to create something solid. Okay. So this child's about to find out that they can, and here's what happens as a result of them figuring it out. They figured it out really, really, really fast. Okay. And they weren't even the one being trained to do it. They just overheard a conversation. This is the story of a very unexpected result of an interview with a lady who came to consult me. One afternoon, a young grandmother, a businesswoman in New York, came to see me. She brought along with her 9-year-old grandson. So the grandson's just tagging along. She didn't bring the grandson to be part of the conversation. She just happened to be babysitting her grandson, okay, who was visiting from her home in Pennsylvania. In response to her questions, I explained the law of assumption, describing in detail the process to be followed in obtaining an objective, basically showing somebody how to take what it is they want and end up manifesting what they want. The boy sat quiet. So this lady came to this guy, Neville Goddard, for a coaching session. That's what was going on. The boy sat quietly and appeared absorbed in a small toy truck, while I explained to the grandmother the method of assuming the state of consciousness that would be hers were her desire already fulfilled. So he's telling her how to go into that state so that she will feel that what it is that she wants is actually already hers. And he's going through training her on the process of doing this. I told her the story of the soldier in camp who each night, this is a previous case study, fell asleep imagining himself to be in his own bed at home. Okay. So the soldier wanted to be discharged, wasn't going to happen. His commanding officer said no. So he went and utilized the process for manifesting what he wanted by pretending that he was each night that he was back home, sleeping in his own bed, living in his own house. And it turned out that he ended up getting discharged. Okay. And everything went exactly as they wanted it to. And it took not very long to do it. When the boy and his grandmother were leaving, so the little boy, looked up at me with great excitement and said, I know what I want, and now I know how to get it. This is a 9-year-old boy, okay? He's all excited because he was listening in on this training, and he figured out there was something he wanted really badly, and now he knows how to go get it. And he has like zero inhibition about it. It's like, you just showed me the keys to the kingdom here, and I'm so excited because I know I'm going to have exactly what I want. Surprised, I asked him what it was he wanted. He told me he had his heart set on a puppy. To this, the grandmother vigorously protested, telling the boy that it had been made clear repeatedly that he could not have a dog under any circumstances, that his father and mother would not allow it, that the boy was too young to care for it properly, and furthermore, the father had a deep dislike for dogs. He actually hated to have one around. All these were arguments the boy, passionately desirous of having a dog, refused to understand. He didn't care what he was being told. He didn't care what the 5 senses and all that stuff. He said, now I know what to do. He said, every night, just as I'm going off to sleep, I'm going to pretend that I have a dog and we're going for a walk. No, said the grandmother, that is not what Mr. Neville means. This was not meant for you. You cannot have a dog. Approximately 6 weeks later, the grandmother told me what was to her an astonishing story. Wasn't to him. Okay. The boy's desire to own a dog was so intense that he had absorbed all that I told his grandmother of how to attain one's desire, and he believed implicitly that at last he knew how to get a dog. So he's like, I know it, I got this. Putting this belief into practice for many nights, the boy imagined a dog was lying in his bed beside him. In imagination, he petted the dog, actually feeling its fur. Things like playing with the dog and taking it for a walk filled his mind. Within a few weeks, it happened. A newspaper in the city in which the boy lived organized a special program in connection with Kindness to Animals Week. All school children were requested to write an essay on why I would like to own a dog. After entries from all the schools were submitted and judged, the winner of the contest was announced. The very same boy who weeks before in my apartment in New York had told me, "Now I know how to get a dog," was the winner. In an elaborate ceremony, which was publicized with stories and pictures in the newspaper, the boy was awarded a beautiful collie puppy. In relating this story, the grandmother told me that if the boy had been given the money with which to buy a dog, the parents would have refused to do so and would have used it to buy a bond for the boy or put it into the savings bank for him. Furthermore, if someone had made the boy a gift of a dog, they would have refused it or given it away. But the dramatic manner in which the boy got the dog, the way he won the citywide contest, the stories and pictures in the newspaper, the pride of achievement and joy of the boy himself, all combined to bring about a change of heart in the parents. And they found themselves doing that which they never conceived possible. They allowed him to keep the dog. All this, the grandmother explained to me, and she concluded by saying that there was one particular kind of dog on which the boy had set his heart. It was a collie. So hopefully it was worth you sitting around to listen to that.
Yes.
Any comments or questions about that story?
Reminds me to be childlike and just remember that imagination is key, and to have I mean, like, as a matter of fact, I am getting that dog as he was, so determined. He knew he was getting that dog, just to be that way in areas of things that I want to keep manifesting. And like I said, where I had a weak moment yesterday, just clear that out, and then just stay steadfast on that, knowing for sure that this is going to happen, or whatever it is that I'm projecting to have come into our lives. That just, with that with that such determination that this boy had in this story.
Yeah, the boy was determined, but also, you know what the boy did? He didn't worry about it. He actually just said, he understood that he was going to use his imagination to manifest the dog. The difference between him going out and playing with his friends as a little kid and him receiving the dog was not that different. He was imagining and playing all the time. What had happened is he allowed, up to this point, his parents saying no and his grandma saying no, he had allowed that, and he was probably had some disappointment. Okay. And who knows what the parents said is their why, besides maybe not wanting one and he couldn't take care of it. Maybe it was money. It never explains in here, like, if money was an issue or not. And maybe it was no issue whatsoever. But what it was is the boy wanted something and had been convinced up to this point that he couldn't have it, or he would have had it. He didn't know how the law of attraction worked. He didn't know that he could use his imagination, like I said.
Oh, lost you.
That is the part where you need to take, I think, might be losing me here for a sec.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
Okay, good. What I was going to say is that's what you guys and gals, okay, what you need to do is you focus on the end result as if it already is. You need to have the feeling of the wish fulfilled as if it already exists, and quit trying. Doesn't mean at some point you won't discover how to make it happen, that God and the universe won't provide the way if you don't focus on it. But if you go focusing on how to make it happen and you can't come up with it as an idea, your subconscious mind's going to beat you up, because it doesn't want change for you. Okay. But when you're going into your imagination and feeling good and having a good time, your subconscious mind in those moments can't really screw around with you. But you only spend, most people, when they start learning this process, they only spend a little bit of time, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes in the morning. They first wake up, 5, 10, 15 minutes at night before they go to bed, like I always recommend you do. But if you would spend more time of your free time, your leisure time, the time you're worried, all this time and energy you're putting into worry and fear and doubt is the same energy that could be put into doing what this boy was doing. You don't have to wait for any given time of day to do this. Anytime you have an opportunity to do this, you can do this. And each time that you do it, it helps.
That's actually my challenge exactly. I only spend a little bit of time on it, and I think that's why I'm not able to manifest as easily. But that's exactly my challenge right now.
Yeah, and it's, again, I like how you said, I don't spend, you didn't say I can't, right? You can.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I can. Exactly.
So here's what happened for me when I first, was exposed to this. I went through a seminar. It was around the science of getting rich. I had received the book, went through a 3-day seminar, and got some additional coaching and help. So there's a combination of things that went on there. But what really made the biggest difference, and understanding the laws was important, reprogramming myself was huge in importance. But what I did was not try and figure out how to make more money. What I did is I immersed myself in the process of changing and immersed myself into focusing on what I want lifestyle to be like. And I put 2 to 3 hours a day into that for 60 days. So I went through the seminar, I'm going to say it was middle of February of 06, just to give you guys a timeline here. So boom, 3-day seminar, and I come out of that and I keep going. I'm given some self-study material around the same seminar, and I'm having conversations with Leslie Householder, which, by the way, is the author of the book we're reading, because she was the coach at the time. I said we were both trained by Bob. That is 100% true. She just had done it before I had, and she had gone through the Science of Getting Rich seminar and then had become a facilitator for it later. I just did that process later. I went on and got involved in multiple businesses and built some and sold some. And it was only in the last couple of years, little over 2 years, that I got that direct training from Bob. But I was living my life very well between then and now, okay, because of this change that happened in early 06. But I had put 2 to 3 hours a day for 2 months into it. So you go end of February, by the time March 31st had rolled around, I had quit my job. And I took essentially the month of April off as a vacation. From April 1st of 2006 till December 31st of 2006, I generated over $400,000 in income. Previous to that, the previous 3 or 4 years, my average income was $5 to $6 grand a month. Well, it turned into an average of 50 grand a month. But it wasn't, I spent enough time and intention reprogramming myself that it happened quickly. You can reprogram yourself at a slightly slower rate. It's still going to happen. What you are very unlikely to do, and I'm glad Michelle recognized this, and so did Mercedes. Okay, they're both on here. They're both part of coaching. It is recognize that, you know what? Do I want to take 3 or 4 or 5 years on my own to figure out, Carl also? Okay. Do I want to take 3, 4, 5 years to figure this out on my own? Or do I want to get help like Kevin did and maybe get this thing figured out in just a few months? So essentially, January, February, March, making 5, 6 grand a month, previous 3 years, 4 years, about the same thing. I was locked in my paradigm. I was locked in my programming. I wasn't going to go any higher, really. I wasn't going to really go any lower. I was going to stay kind of where I was, and I was working 50, 60 hours a week, and that had been very common for the last several years, sometimes even more. But when I went through the change, it can happen more quickly. I went through the change, and kabam, starting literally, the month of May through the end of the year, 8 months, over $400,000, and I was only working 15 to 20 hours a week to do it. That is what learning this stuff and getting reprogrammed, and what getting a coach to help you do it can help you do. Now, if I extrapolate that out, let's say it would have taken me another 1.5 years to figure it out on my own. Well, at just $500,000, or $50,000 over there, that's $600,000 a year. Well, I would have lost $900,000 in income because I waited to get coached and helped. Some of you guys are sitting here going, I don't want to put $5,000 on a credit card. I don't want to take $5,000 from my account. I don't want to sell something worth $5,000 to get the group coaching. Bad decision. Hey, even if your income, if it took you 12 months for your income to double or triple, okay, by the end of it took 12 months for that to happen. That's 12 months though, going forward for the rest of your life, that your income will be that much or more. And starting June 15th, my cost anyhow, you could go find someone else, is going up to 10,000 because all of my colleagues are charging that or more and saying I'm way undercharging. And they're right. I've just been doing this now for a while in the group setting, and it's working. I used to only do one-on-one, but the group setting is working. People are having great results, and I really need to charge what it's worth. I also found the people I charge the most money get the fastest results almost every time. So it's been that way forever, even when it had to do with real estate.
I have to say, even though we haven't started our group sessions, things have really started falling into place after I signed up with you. And then the prayers and different things that you've helped me with, when I reached out to you those couple times, has worked. I mean, immediately. So it's amazing. But it's like what Kay said. She brought up a good point. Thanks, Kay, for reminding me. Because Leslie talked about it, that your brain, and Bob Proctor too, it's a muscle. It's a muscle, and you have to strengthen it. And I think I was just having, it's kind of like when you do squats. I hate squats; they're the worst. But you push yourself through it. You have to build that muscle. Well, the same thing with my brain. I think my subconscious was fighting back, so I had to, and I pushed through it rather quickly, more so than I have done in the past. In the past, I would wallow in probably a week. But at least I was pushing out the negative thoughts, right away. I mean, they would seep in a couple times yesterday, but then I got rid of them right away and kept telling myself, no, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then what else you touched on, Kevin, was the how. That's like one of my worst things too, is that, well, I'm impatient, but also because I keep thinking how. And I know we're not supposed to think that. Bob Proctor says that all the time too. It's not our job to know how. That's God and the universe's, job. We're supposed to just manifest. I mean, we're supposed to imagine it and hold it in our head or in our minds, and then don't worry about the how. And I think that's where I was tripping up, is because I was worrying about the how. What can I do to help contribute to get that lifestyle that I want to provide for my family?
Yep, absolutely.
I can
And
definitely
that is the number one. That's the number one weapon your subconscious mind has against you. It knows you don't know how right now. It knows you can't answer that question, and so it's its most powerful weapon.
If I could add, but Michelle, I can definitely relate to you. I think that's another thing that I struggle with, not just like practicing enough every day, like focusing on the goal, but I'm always like, okay, this is what I want. And then my mind was like, okay, then how are you going to get it? And then I think I limit myself. I don't see enough channels, but of course, like the book mentioned, like man's ability is not the same as God's. God will find, I don't know, like
Right.
unsuspecting ways to make it manifest. But I wanted to share a story about how I got this apartment. It's when I applied the laws of attraction perfectly, or this condo. I saw two condos, and then the second one I really liked. The price was good, everything was good, and I told the realtor I was gonna call him back within a few days to let him know that I want it. And when I called him, he didn't answer. For 10 days, he didn't answer. But for the 10 days, I kept telling myself, I was like, it is mine, it is mine, it is mine. And then sometimes my subconscious was like, oh, I think he sold it. That's why you don't have it. I was like, I don't care who has it. It's going to be mine. It's going to be mine. So a few days later, I went over next door to my grandfather's house, and he was like, have you found a place? I was like, no, I want that place. He said, but the realtor isn't answering. He says, take my phone and call the realtor, just to see if he answers. The same day, a different realtor was coming over to the house because my grandfather was selling his villa. And the guy walked in the house and I looked at him. I was like, Grandpa, I think that's the realtor. He says, that's not him. You know, the guy who hasn't been answering for like more than 2 weeks. And then I took the phone, my grandfather's phone, and I called. And I was like, hey. And then the realtor in the house, he answers. He's like, hey, you're calling me. The same realtor that I've been calling for 2 weeks happened to be the realtor that hasn't been answering. And he told me that he was sick with some lung issue, which is why he wasn't taking calls. And then he says, okay, I'm going to call the owner of the apartment and see if he accepts your offer. And I was like, it doesn't matter. You can call him. It's going to be mine. And then about 30 minutes later, he called me back. He's like, hey, I have good news. I was like, I know. He's like, it's yours. So
Oh my gosh.
it was like exactly what you said about the boy and the dog. Like he just focused on the goal. I didn't focus on the how. Now I'm focused on the how. I just need to change that as well.
Yep.
Right. And did you say, Kay, too, that that a little bit though, like your subconscious was kind of fighting back a little bit, saying no, but then you're like steadfast, saying no, it is mine. It is mine.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. Like your willpower have to be greater than your subconscious because you're like, you know, it's kind of used to the like the doubt. Yeah, you've like set yourself to like accept doubt and appearance, but then you're changing that. You're replacing that. I was like, I really wanted it, so I was not gonna accept no. So I need to like really want everything else, like just as I did this place. So
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so great.
Okie dokie. That's awesome. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody. Looks like we're down in numbers because we're quite over in time. Look forward to seeing you guys and gals tomorrow. And if you don't have it and you want to reach out and talk about coaching, my email is coach and then my name, kevinsparks@gmail.com. Send me a message and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Everybody have an amazing, wonderful, awesome day.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Kay.
thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Hi,
Michelle.
thank you.
Bye, guys.